how your brain talks to the universe through signals. What if the universe has never been outside of you, but inside the folds of your own perception? What if every thought, emotion, and sensation you experience is not a private event, but a broadcast? A pulse of information that the universe receives and mirrors back as reality. In the next few minutes, you'll enter the intersection between neuroscience and the sacred, the space where matter listens to consciousness. You'll discover how your brain acts as a living translator between your inner world and the field of creation itself. You'll understand how signs, synchronicities, and intuition are not mystical accidents, but the natural language of a mind tuned to the cosmic frequency. This is not a story of belief. It is a science of remembrance. Because while most people spend their lives asking for proof that the universe responds, the truth is that it's been answering all along, through symbols, patterns, and sensations that your brain has learned to ignore. If you stay until the end of this journey, you will not only know how to identify the signals, but how to tune your own frequency to communicate with the field of creation itself. Miss it, and you'll continue mistaking divine feedback for coincidence. So take a breath and listen, not with your ears, but with your awareness, because the conversation between you and the universe has already begun. 1. The frequency of creation. Everything in existence vibrates. From the rotation of galaxies to the firing of a single neuron, creation moves through rhythm and frequency. Your brain is no exception. Each thought you produce, each emotion you feel, emits an electromagnetic pattern. When combined, these patterns form a symphony of frequencies that continuously interact with the energetic field surrounding you. Neuroscience shows that your brain is not static, it oscillates. Alpha, theta, gamma, delta, each wave represents a different state of consciousness and perception. But beyond the scientific terminology lies something profound. Every frequency carries information, and that information interacts with reality. Quantum biology confirms that matter does not exist independently of observation. The act of perceiving, thinking, and feeling organizes the probabilities of what becomes real. When you think with fear or doubt, your electromagnetic signal becomes fragmented. The universe mirrors that fragmentation through confusion and delay. But when you think with coherence, when heart and mind align, the frequency becomes ordered, harmonic, capable of synchronization with the larger field. That is when signs appear, synchronicities unfold, and events align effortlessly. Ancient scripture hinted at this truth long before the modern lab could measure it. In the beginning was the Word, says the Gospel of John. Word in Greek, logos, means vibration, reason, pattern. The ancient understood that creation is not born from material substance, but from frequency, the sound of consciousness speaking itself into form. Modern neuroscience reveals the same mechanism within the brain. Electrical impulses cross the synaptic gap in rhythmic waves, forming networks that fire together and wire together. The more coherent the rhythm, the stronger the connection. That's neuroplasticity, repetition and emotion etching vibration into structure. Every repeated thought is not simply a mental act, it is the sculpting of matter through frequency. The key is coherence. The heart produces the strongest electromagnetic field of the human body, up to 60 times stronger than the brain's electrical field. When emotion and thought move in harmony, their frequencies merge. This unified signal reaches beyond the body, affecting the energetic environment. It is not superstition, it is physics. You are a transmitter and receiver in the same breath. This understanding changes everything about manifestation. It is not about forcing reality to obey your will. It is about tuning your biological instrument until your frequency becomes a match to the outcome you seek. Just as a radio cannot play a station it isn't tuned to, your brain cannot perceive the signals that exist outside its vibrational state. The practice then is not to ask for more from the universe, but to become more receptive to what it is already broadcasting. Every coincidence, every intuitive nudge, every emotion of resonance is part of this frequency dialogue. You are both the question and the answer, the signal and the receiver. And once you begin to recognize this rhythm, you will no longer look for signs. You will understand that the signs are looking for you. 2. The forgotten sense. Beyond sight, sound, touch, taste, and smell lies a hidden system of perception that modern neuroscience is only beginning to understand. It's the network that interprets meaning before logic intervenes, the silent translator that allows you to feel truth before you can explain it. Some call it intuition, but that word barely touches its depth. The brain possesses what Dr. Swart describes as the coherence detector, a neural web that scans billions of stimuli each second, searching for patterns that resonate with your emotional memory. It's this system that whispers, "Something about this feels right," long before the conscious mind can justify why. In moments of intuition, what you are sensing is not imagination. It is your neural field recognizing order within apparent chaos. This forgotten sense operates through what neuroscience calls predictive coding. Your brain is constantly guessing what reality should look like, then adjusting perception when the guess aligns with the field around you. When the outer and inner frequencies synchronize, a signal emerges. A gut feeling, a sudden knowing, a flash of clarity. What you call coincidence is often your brain receiving confirmation from the larger pattern it just matched. Evolution designed this faculty for survival, but consciousness refined it for connection. Long before language, our ancestors read the atmosphere, the tone of silence before a storm, the subtle behavior of animals. They lived inside a world of communication that didn't need words. In that world, every vibration was information, and every movement of nature carried a message. This same system still functions within you, buried beneath constant stimulation. It's the reason you feel unease around deception, or harmony in the presence of authenticity. The brain reads frequency as safety or danger, resonance or dissonance. The spirit reads it as alignment or separation from source. The two are the same process viewed from different dimensions. In Scripture, this capacity was described as discernment of spirits, the ability to test what is true not by argument, but by vibration. "My sheep hear my voice," said Christ, referring not to hearing with ears, but to sensing coherence with the divine frequency. Science calls it neural entrainment. Spirituality calls it guidance. To reactivate this forgotten sense, you must do the opposite of what modern life trains you to do. Slow down, breathe, feel before you analyze, because meaning does not arrive through thought, it arrives through recognition. And when the mind grows quiet enough, that recognition becomes revelation. The universe still speaks in patterns, symbols, and sensations. It's not the absence of signs that keeps you blind. It's the overexposure to noise. The forgotten sense is not gone. It's simply waiting for you to remember how to feel the world instead of think it. 3. The synaptic prayer. Every thought you have leaves an electrical footprint. Every repetition strengthens it until it becomes a structure, an invisible pattern of faith sculpted in neurons. The ancients called it prayer. Neuroscience calls it neuroplasticity. In truth, they describe the same process, the transformation of energy into form through repetition, emotion, and belief. A prayer is not a sentence whispered into the air. It is a frequency encoded in biology. When a thought is repeated with emotional conviction, neurons begin to fire in synchronized rhythm. Each pulse releases neurochemicals, dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, that imprint a sensation of certainty. The more you repeat the state, the more those neural pathways become highways of expectation. You literally program your brain to anticipate fulfillment. Expectation is the magnetic field of the mind. It reorganizes perception, filtering the external world to confirm what the internal world believes. This is why belief shapes experience. The mechanism is physiological. The reticular activating system in your brainstem acts like a gatekeeper, selecting which signals deserve your attention. What you focus on becomes neurologically illuminated. What you ignore—
This is the science behind the phrase, "Ask and it shall be given." You don't create the gift, you perceive the frequency where it already exists. Dr. Swart explains that the combination of emotion and repetition generates measurable change in the brain's default mode network, the circuitry that defines your sense of self. Prayer, therefore, is not pleading with the divine to intervene. It's the act of aligning your neural identity with the vibration of what you seek. Once the identity shifts, reality must follow, because the brain begins to interact with the environment in new, coherent ways. In the biblical view, this is the renewal of the mind. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind, says Romans 12:2. The transformation is not symbolic, it's neurochemical. Faith is not blindness, it is the highest form of neural alignment, a constant synchronization between thought, emotion, and divine expectation. When scientists measure the brains of those in deep prayer or meditation, they observe a consistent phenomenon: decreased activity in the parietal lobe, the region that defines the boundary between self and world. As that border dissolves, the sense of separation fades, and the individual experiences unity with something vast. The prayer has become a bridge. The self has become signal. You pray every moment you think, every time you feel. The only question is what frequency your biology is broadcasting. Fear, doubt, gratitude, reverence. Each carries its own signature. The universe does not respond to words, it mirrors vibration. When your thought and feeling merge into one coherent pulse, the brain emits what physicists describe as a standing wave, energy stable enough to influence the probability field. That is creation in motion, not metaphor, but mechanism. Not hope, but law. To pray is to remember your authorship in the fabric of existence. Every neuron, every breath, every heartbeat is a declaration: let there be light. And the field answers, not in wonder or miracle, but in synchronization. 4. The salience gate. Hidden deep within the brain lies a network known as the salience system, a cluster of regions that decide what matters and what does not. It is the biological gatekeeper of meaning. Every second, millions of bits of data flood your senses, but only a few pass through this filter. What you notice, what draws your attention, becomes your reality. The rest dissolves into silence. Dr. Swart describes this system as the bridge between the inner and outer world, the very mechanism that transforms perception into destiny. When the salience network detects something emotionally charged or personally relevant, it tags that event as significant. It glows in the brain's awareness, becomes memory, and we call it a sign. This is not mysticism, this is neuroselection. The miracle is not that the universe sends signs, but that your nervous system knows how to recognize them. The gate is influenced by dopamine, the neurotransmitter of motivation and reward. When a symbol or coincidence matches your internal state, dopamine surges, reinforcing the pattern. Your brain begins to search for similar frequencies, and soon they multiply. What began as one spark of recognition becomes a cascade of confirmation. In spiritual language, this is the moment the veil thins, the convergence of vibration between the observer and the observed. The pattern that once hid within randomness now stands illuminated by the light of your awareness. This is how the universe speaks, through selective amplification. The brain does not invent signs, it highlights them when resonance occurs. Imagine your consciousness as a radio tower surrounded by infinite waves. The salience gate is the tuner. When your thought and feeling align into one coherent pulse, the brain emits what physicists describe as a standing wave, energy stable enough to influence the probability field. That is creation in motion, not metaphor, but mechanism. Not hope, but law. To pray is to remember your authorship in the fabric of existence. Every neuron, every breath, every heartbeat is a declaration, "Let there be light." And the field answers, not in thunder or miracle, but in synchronization. 5. The mirror of the cosmos. If you could step outside yourself and look into the structure of the universe, you would recognize a reflection. The vastness of space and the depth of the human brain are not opposites. They are parallel expressions of the same geometry. Under a microscope or a telescope, the pattern repeats. Filaments of galaxies branching like neurons, electrical discharges mimicking star clusters, light traveling through cosmic highways as synapses carry thought. Creation is self-similar across scale. Physicists call it fractal organization. Mystics call it divine symmetry. What it means is profound. The design of the universe is printed within your biology. When you look up at the night sky, you are not gazing into distance, but into the architecture of your own consciousness extended across infinity. Your mind is not inside your head. Your head is inside a mind that spans the cosmos. Neuroscience has found that the brain's networks operate by the same principles that govern galactic formation: dynamic connectivity, constant communication, expansion through feedback. When one neuron fires, others adjust in harmony, maintaining balance through resonance. The universe behaves identically. Every star, every particle vibrates in relation to all others, preserving equilibrium within apparent chaos. The same law of coherence sustains matter and mind. Dr. Swart suggests that when you experience awe, a sunset, music, the sudden beauty of stillness, the brain's default mode network temporarily dissolves, erasing the illusion of separateness. You feel connected to something greater, because at that moment, your neural frequency mirrors the harmonic geometry of creation. You are in tune with creation's rhythm. Ancient texts spoke of this mirror long before the term neuron existed. As above, so below. As within, so without. The verse is not metaphorical, it is anatomical. Your consciousness and the universe share a single blueprint. The electromagnetic oscillations in your brain are echoes of cosmic background radiation, the original vibration of the word that spoke light into being. When you grasp this, manifestation ceases to be magic and becomes participation. You are not bending reality. You are synchronizing with it. Each intention you hold refines the pattern within your neural constellation, and the field responds by reshaping itself to match. The outer universe adjusts to the architecture of your inner one. This realization dissolves the ancient hierarchy between human and divine. The same intelligence that governs the orbit of planets governs the pulse of your heart. When you act from alignment, you do not petition the cosmos,
you conduct it. The signal travels both ways. The universe informs your neurons, and your neurons inform the universe. That is why silence feels sacred, why intuition arrives in stillness, and why awe opens understanding. In those moments, the mirror clears, and you remember that the infinite has always been looking through your eyes. 6. The body's secret alphabet. The first language ever spoken between you and the universe was not verbal. It was biological. Long before thought formed words, the body was already listening, translating vibration into feeling, sensation, and impulse. Every cell carries receptors that read the electromagnetic whispers of your environment. The skin, the heart, and the gut together compose an ancient sensory alphabet that predates speech itself. Modern neuroscience confirms what mystics always knew. The body thinks. The enteric nervous system in your gut contains over 100 million neurons, communicating directly with the brain through the vagus nerve. The heart possesses its own neural network, capable of independent memory and emotional processing.
Together, these systems create a feedback loop of perception that extends beyond logic. When you say, "I feel it in my gut," or "I know it in my heart," you are describing the oldest form of cognition, somatic intuition. Dr. Tara Swart teaches that trauma, intuition, and unexpressed wisdom are stored in the tissues of the body, particularly the fascia, the connective web that holds every organ and muscle. This is why movement, sound, and breath have transformative power. They release coded messages locked in cellular memory. Chanting, dancing, and rhythmic breathing are not rituals of superstition, but biological decoders, freeing the signals that the mind has forgotten how to translate. When you move with awareness, the body speaks back. A subtle relaxation in the chest can mean trust. A contraction in the stomach can mean misalignment. These are not coincidences. They are the syntax of energy communication. The universe sends frequency. The body writes meaning. Science calls this interoception, the ability to sense internal states. Spirituality calls it discernment. In truth, it is a conversation between creation and creation, an unbroken dialogue through which the infinite tests its reflection. Each heartbeat carries electromagnetic information. Each breath calibrates your frequency to the environment. You are both listener and instrument. In biblical language, the Word became flesh. It was never about theology, it was biology. The divine pattern translated into matter, and matter learned to respond. When the heart is coherent, its rhythm stabilizes the entire nervous system, sending harmonic waves that influence every cell. Gratitude and reverence are not emotions alone, they are frequencies that rewrite your physiology. To reconnect with this secret alphabet, you must remember how to feel rather than analyze. Sit in stillness and observe your heartbeat. Notice the warmth that expands when you recall love. Listen to the subtle shifts in your breath as you face truth or illusion. The body will tell you what the intellect cannot. Your skin, your pulse, your breath, these are letters in the language of creation. When you learn to read them, you realize that the universe has been speaking through you all along, spelling its messages in sensation, guiding you through the script of existence written beneath the surface of thought. 7. The neuroaesthetic signal. There is a reason beauty takes your breath away. It is not vanity, it is neurology. When the brain encounters symmetry, color harmony, or melodic proportion, it activates networks that govern pleasure, learning, and memory. The same pathways that respond to truth and revelation light up when you perceive beauty. That is why art, music, and nature can make you feel close to something eternal. They're not decoration for the spirit, they're the fingerprints of coherence. Dr. Tara Swart calls this neuroaesthetics, the science of how beauty reorganizes the brain. When you experience awe, the prefrontal cortex momentarily quiets,
silencing self-reference and opening the mind to perception without defense. The result is expansion. In that instant, the salience network floods with dopamine and oxytocin, marking the moment as meaningful. You call it divine presence. The lab calls it increased neural synchrony. Both describe the same event, the nervous system aligning with universal order. Beauty is not entertainment. It is instruction. Every proportion in nature, from the spiral of a seashell to the arrangement of galaxies, follows the golden ratio, phi, the mathematics of grace. When your eyes encounter that ratio, they recognize home. The same ratio is present in the heart's rhythm, in DNA helices, even in the oscillation of your brainwaves. To perceive beauty is to witness your own design reflected back to you by creation itself. Ancient rituals knew this. Temples, chants, and sacred art were not meant to impress, but to induce resonance. The flicker of candlelight, the vibration of a drum, the repetition of sacred geometry, each element tuned the brain toward order. That tuning awakened states of clarity and peace because the nervous system remembered its cosmic symmetry. The worshiper was not reaching for God. They were re-entering coherence. Modern life erodes this sensitivity. Surrounded by artificial light, chaotic sounds, and rushed movement, the brain forgets what harmony feels like. The salience gate narrows, signs are harder to perceive. Reintroducing beauty, silence, and rhythm is not luxury, it is recalibration. You don't need a cathedral, a sunrise will suffice. You don't need incense, your breath will do. Every act of noticing beauty, no matter how small, repairs the circuitry of perception. In that recognition, creation and consciousness meet. The awe you feel in front of a starry sky or a child's laughter is not sentimental. It is the signal of alignment, the brain acknowledging the pattern it was built to mirror. You are designed to respond to beauty because beauty is the resonance of truth. When you learn to dwell in that resonance, the universe begins to speak to you not through chaos, but through harmony. And when you live in coherence with that harmony, everything ordinary becomes radiant. 8. The electric covenant. Every emotion you feel releases a current. Within seconds, that current alters the electromagnetic field that surrounds your body, shaping an invisible atmosphere that interacts with everything around you. This field is not metaphorical, it is measurable. The HeartMath Institute has shown that the heart's electromagnetic pulse extends several feet beyond the skin, syncing with other hearts nearby. Emotion is magnetism in motion, energy forming covenant with energy. When you experience love, gratitude, or reverence, the field becomes coherent, forming smooth, sine-like waves that harmonize with external frequencies. In fear, anger, or guilt, the pattern fractures into erratic spikes that repel coherence. The universe doesn't punish, it simply resonates. Your electromagnetic signature determines which realities can attach to you. The law is ancient. Like attracts like. Frequency meets frequency. Dr. Tara Swart explains that this exchange is bidirectional. The environment also shapes your internal state through entrainment. Two pendulums on the same wall eventually swing in rhythm, and two human beings in proximity unconsciously match heart rate and neural activity. You are never isolated. You are part of a global web of coherence where every heartbeat contributes to the cosmic rhythm. This is the essence of covenant, energetic reciprocity between consciousness and creation. The field around you remembers your emotional history. It carries the residue of every thought you have rehearsed. When you shift that pattern through awareness, the entire field reorganizes. This is why profound emotional release feels like liberation. It's the nervous system returning to resonance after long distortion. The Bible describes covenant as agreement between God and humanity. Science reveals the same principle, resonance between field and observer. To enter covenant is to align your signal with divine order, to become a participant in the frequency of creation. Prayer, meditation, forgiveness, Each act stabilizes your electromagnetic field until it vibrates with clarity. The clearer the field, the faster information flows between your consciousness and the universe. In this clarity, intuition strengthens. You sense timing, opportunity, and synchronicity before they manifest. The field responds not to words, but to coherence. Gratitude acts as a conductor, amplifying connection. Resentment acts as resistance, breaking the circuit. Every day, you rewrite your covenant through emotion. When Christ said, "Where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there I am," he described field coherence, the merging of multiple signals into one powerful harmonic. It's the same physics that makes choirs move hearts and collective prayer alter measurable energy patterns. Coherence multiplies influence. You do not need to master the universe. You need to master the current you emit. Once your emotional energy stabilizes into coherence, reality begins to move toward you with mathematical precision. This is the electric covenant, the law of correspondence, written not in scripture, but in the pulse of every living being. And the moment you realize that every heartbeat is a contract with creation, you begin to live as both prayer and proof. 9. The field of remembering. Memory is not confined to the brain. It exists in the space between you and the world. Every interaction leaves an electromagnetic trace, a resonance that persists in the field of reality. This is why certain places feel heavy, certain songs reopen emotions, and why moments of déjà vu feel like remembering a conversation you never had.
Your consciousness is porous, constantly exchanging information with a field that stores not just data, but meaning. Neuroscience once believed memory was purely synaptic, a chemical encoding within neural circuits. Yet studies in quantum biology and biophysics are reshaping this idea. Experiments with water memory, morphic resonance, and photon storage within DNA suggest that information may persist in subtle energy fields beyond the nervous system. What you call intuition might be your brain retrieving data that your electromagnetic field already knows. Dr. Swart has spoken about the body as an archive, each cell containing emotional and experiential imprints that influence behavior. When you revisit a pattern or attract a similar event, it is not punishment, it is retrieval. The field around you is replaying stored information, giving you a chance to rewrite it through awareness. This is why forgiveness and gratitude feel like release. They discharge energetic memory from your field, dissolving repetition and allowing new experiences to appear. In spiritual terms, this field of remembering is the book of life, the invisible record of every thought and action vibrating in eternity. The Bible describes God as remembering His covenant forever. In scientific terms, this is the persistence of frequency. The universe never forgets the vibrations you sustain. Every prayer, every act of love, every word of anger ripples through the field, awaiting integration or transmutation. The resonance you carry influences what you notice and attract. When your electromagnetic memory is heavy with unresolved emotion, it distorts your salience gate, causing you to perceive through the lens of the past. You don't see reality as it is. You see it as your field remembers it. Healing, therefore, is not erasing memory. It is reorganizing energy so that memory becomes wisdom instead of weight. This is also why synchronicities often emerge after deep emotional healing. The moment your field releases old resonance, it vibrates differently, summoning new experiences that match its liberated frequency. Memory and manifestation are two sides of one mechanism, the field projecting its current pattern into time. Modern research on entanglement adds another layer. When particles interact, they remain connected regardless of distance. In the same way, every relationship, every act of attention binds you energetically to others. These connections form threads across the field of remembering.
weaving the unseen network through which intuition, déjà vu, and telepathic impressions occur. You are not just a traveler through time, you are the librarian of eternity, surrounded by echoes of everything you have ever thought or felt. Each act of awareness edits the book. Each choice writes a new chapter. When you choose coherence, you reprogram the field itself. The field does not store your past to trap you. It stores it so that you may remember who you are. And when you do, life begins to respond not with repetition, but with revelation. 10. The language of stillness. Silence is not the absence of sound. It is the foundation of every frequency. In stillness, all signals merge back into the field of potential, waiting to be interpreted by awareness. Your brain, constantly bombarded with noise and thought, rarely enters this state. Yet it is precisely here, in the quiet between impulses, that communication with the universe becomes audible. Dr. Tara Swart explains that when the mind calms and breath slows, the brain shifts from beta waves of constant analysis into the slower alpha and theta rhythms. These frequencies increase coherence between neural networks and allow the salient system to detect subtler signals. In silence, perception refines. The nervous system becomes a receiver tuned to the faint hum of reality. This is not mysticism, it is neurophysics. The electromagnetic field of the heart stabilizes, the vagus nerve signals safety, and the body enters resonance with the environment. Ancient teachings understood this without vocabulary. Be still and know that I am God. Stillness is not inaction, it is alignment. The still mind does not stop thinking, it stops identifying with thought. It becomes a mirror. And when the surface of consciousness stills, the reflection of the divine becomes clear. The language of stillness is composed of sensation, breath, and subtle awareness. Every inhalation draws in the field's vibration. Every exhalation reorganizes it. In deep silence, intuition arises not as a voice, but as recognition, a knowing without reasoning. The prefrontal cortex quiets, the amygdala releases its vigilance, and the brain begins to entrain with the background frequency of the universe. Moments of profound insight often occur when logic finally pauses. Scientists have documented that the aha moment appears only after the analytical mind relaxes, allowing deeper associative networks to integrate information subconsciously. What mystics call revelation, neuroscience calls pattern completion. Both are born in silence. This is why prayer, meditation, or even mindful breathing opens perception to signs. Silence reorganizes the inner architecture so the outer message can enter. It is the reset that turns chaos into coherence. And within that coherence, meaning emerges effortlessly. The noise of life fragments awareness, scattering your signal across countless distractions. Stillness gathers it back into one coherent beam, focused, lucid, magnetic. In that clarity, you begin to notice the subtle alignment between your inner rhythm and outer events. The world starts responding in patterns too precise to ignore. To learn this language, you must not try harder. You must listen deeper. Sit in the quiet until your thoughts lose urgency. Let silence speak first. At the edge of that stillness, you'll feel a vibration that isn't sound, but presence. That presence is the voice of creation itself. And once you hear it, you realize it was never far away. It was waiting, patient, beneath the noise of your own mind. 11. The intelligent randomness. Every coincidence you encounter carries intelligence disguised as chance. The rational mind calls it randomness, But neuroscience and quantum theory reveal something deeper, a field that organizes chaos through consciousness. What seems accidental is often the brain's way of aligning with a probability wave that your attention has already collapsed into form. Dr. Tara Swart notes that when the salience network fires in response to emotionally charged moments, it links them into meaningful sequences. The brain searches for continuity, for a pattern that confirms coherence between inner and outer experience. This drive toward meaning is not delusion, it's evidence of design. The same mechanism that connects memories also connects events across time, weaving them into what you experience as synchronicity. Imagine your attention as a lighthouse. Wherever it shines, the fog of possibility begins to organize. Patterns appear not because they were imposed, but because they are drawn to the gravitational pull of your focus. Quantum observation mirrors this. Particles exist in potential until observed, and observation itself determines their trajectory. Consciousness is not separate from randomness. It is the sculptor of its shape. The universe hides intelligence within apparent disorder to train awareness. Randomness is divine camouflage, ensuring that only those who look with presence can see the underlying message. It's the difference between superstition and awakening. The superstitious mind demands control. The awakened mind detects communication. Statistically, true randomness is almost non-existent. Even in chaos theory, patterns emerge from feedback loops. A small change in initial conditions creates cascading effects, what scientists call sensitive dependence. Spiritually, this is the law of correspondence. As within, so without. When your internal state changes, the sequence of events reorders itself around your new frequency. What you label coincidence is reality recalibrating to meet your vibration. Neuroscience supports this with the concept of predictive processing. The brain constantly generates models of reality and updates them when evidence aligns. Each synchronicity you notice strengthens the neural belief that the universe communicates, training your salience gate to perceive more of it. Over time, you build a dialogue with the field through recognition alone. Even the Bible captures this law in
The more you acknowledge, the more precise the communication becomes. What began as isolated luck turns into a living conversation between mind and matter. So when the next unexpected alignment crosses your path, don't dismiss it. Pause. Feel its texture, its timing, its whisper. Ask what frequency of your own mind called it forth. Because in truth, the universe never speaks through chaos. It speaks through the perfection of patterns that only appear random to the eyes that have yet to see. 12. The emotion code. Emotion is not a reaction to life. It is the frequency through which life responds to you. Each feeling carries an electromagnetic signature that imprints itself across the nervous system and radiates into the field around your body. Neuroscience confirms that emotions are chemical instructions that teach your cells how to behave. Spiritually, they are frequencies that instruct reality how to unfold. Dr. Tara Swart explains that emotion acts as a neural amplifier. When combined with attention, it imprints memory into the brain's architecture. Joy, gratitude, and love generate neurochemicals, dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin that promote plasticity and strengthen circuits of trust and expansion. Fear, guilt, and shame release cortisol and norepinephrine, contracting awareness, narrowing perception, and making the world appear smaller. Emotion literally sculpts your brain and filters your experience of the universe. Gratitude is one of the most studied emotional frequencies in neuroscience. It harmonizes the heart's rhythm, calms the amygdala, and increases communication between the prefrontal cortex and limbic system, the centers of logic and emotion. This synchronization creates what researchers call coherent resonance, allowing intuition to surface and the salience gate to open wider. In spiritual terms, gratitude aligns you with grace. It is not a mood. It is a signal that tells the field you are ready to receive. Forgiveness, too, is not moral obligation, but neurological liberation. When you release resentment, your brain's stress response decreases, and the energy once trapped in rumination becomes available for creativity and insight. The field interprets this as permission to rearrange circumstances that had been held hostage by your bitterness. In that moment, reality updates. The Bible describes this emotional alchemy through vibration rather than doctrine. A merry heart doeth good like medicine. Perfect love casteth out fear. These were not metaphors. They were physiological truths spoken centuries before science confirmed them. Emotions are the language of the subconscious. They speak directly to the universe, bypassing words. Every sustained emotional state broadcasts a frequency that draws experiences in resonance with it. This is why prolonged fear attracts confirmation of danger, and prolonged joy magnetizes opportunity. The field does not distinguish between wanted or unwanted. It responds to coherence. Whatever emotion dominates becomes the template for creation. Your task is not to suppress emotion, but to translate it. Feel everything fully. Then choose the frequency you wish to anchor. Let gratitude rewrite fear. Let forgiveness dissolve stagnation. Let wonder replace doubt. Each emotional shift reprograms your neurochemistry and recalibrates your electromagnetic field. When Dr. Tara Swart teaches about manifestation, she emphasizes embodiment, the necessity of feeling the desired state before it exists. That act is not pretend, it is practice. You are teaching your nervous system to broadcast a new frequency until the universe echoes it back as form. The emotion code is not written in words, but in waves. Each thought colored by emotion becomes a command issued to reality. The miracle is not that your feelings influence the world, it's that the world was designed to respond to your feelings. 13. The covenant of observation. Observation is participation. Every time you witness reality, you alter it. Quantum physics calls this the observer effect. Spirituality calls it co-creation. The act of noticing is not passive, it is creative. Your attention collapses potential into form, just as intention directs energy toward expression. The universe does not happen to you, it happens through your awareness of it. Dr. Tara Swart teaches that perception is shaped by emotion and expectation, forming neural predictions that the brain then seeks to confirm. This means consciousness is not merely recording the world, it is editing it in real time. Each focus of attention is a declaration of faith, a signal to the field saying, "This is what matters." The field answers by reconfiguring itself around that focus. Observation becomes covenant, a living agreement between your awareness and creation itself. The biblical text reveals this same principle in poetic language. Ask, and it shall be given. Seek, and ye shall find. Knock, and it shall be opened unto you. These are not moral promises, they are laws of perception. Asking directs focus. Seeking sustains attention. Knocking is persistence of observation until form appears. Faith, in this context, is continuous observation aligned with expectation. Neuroscience affirms that sustained attention rewires the brain through Hebbian learning. Neurons that fire together, wire together. The more you observe something, the more neural real estate it occupies, increasing its probability of expression. This is why repeated worry manifests obstacles, and why sustained gratitude amplifies opportunity. The field mirrors your cognitive consistency. Observation carries emotional responsibility. To watch life through fear is to feed that frequency. To watch through awe is to invoke order. When Christ said, "The light of the body is the eye," he was describing a biological truth.
Perception determines illumination. The observer is not separate from the observed, but an extension of it. You do not look at the world, you look from it. Modern research on mirror neurons shows that observation even alters physiology. Watching another in pain activates your own neural circuits of empathy. Seeing joy triggers dopamine release. The boundaries between observer and observed blur at the level of the nervous system. Consciousness is contagious. Every spiritual practice, prayer, meditation, visualization, is built on this covenant. You focus, hold the image, feel its reality, and sustain awareness until matter organizes accordingly. You are not forcing outcomes, you are maintaining communion with potential until it reveals itself. In this sense, observation is worship. To give attention is to give energy, to affirm the divine presence within form. The universe responds where reverence is directed. When you observe with love, reality arranges itself toward beauty. When you observe with despair, it fragments to match. Your sight is sacred technology. The eyes are not just windows, they are projectors. What you look at with sustained emotion, you bless or curse into being. The covenant of observation is eternal. The world reflects the gaze of its witness. To live consciously is to observe with devotion, to see everything as alive, responsive, and aware of your awareness. When you remember this, you stop asking whether the universe hears you. You understand that every moment you notice existence is noticing you back. 14. The human antenna. Your body is not a vessel carrying consciousness. It is consciousness expressed as biology. Every atom within you oscillates at a frequency that both receives and emits information. When thought, emotion, and physiology align, you become an antenna, an intelligent transmitter tuned to the wavelength of the universe itself. Neuroscience shows that coherence between brain and heart create measurable electromagnetic patterns that extend beyond the skin, forming a living field that interacts with the environment. Dr. Tara Swart explains that when you cultivate emotional stability and clear intention, your neural and cardiac rhythms synchronize, producing a harmonic signature that can entrain other systems around you. This is why calmness soothes others and fear spreads instantly. Your vibration teaches the room what to feel. At a cellular level, your body operates like a quantum receiver. Microtubules inside neurons exhibit oscillations sensitive to electromagnetic fluctuations, suggesting that consciousness may be distributed across fields rather than confined to gray matter. This means the boundaries between you and the world are not physical, they are vibrational. Every breath you take synchronizes with atmospheric ions. Every heartbeat adjusts to planetary magnetism. You are not on Earth, you are of it. When the mind races with conflict, the signal fragments. Mixed emotion and scattered intention send static into the field, attracting incoherent results. But when intention is clear and emotion resonates with it, the signal stabilizes.
This is the state mystics call faith and scientists call coherence. It is the invisible harmony that allows the external world to align effortlessly with your internal design. Ancient scriptures described this technology long before neuroscience measured it. Jacob's ladder, Ezekiel's wheel, the pillar of light in Exodus, all metaphors for the same mechanism, the human as conduit between heaven and earth. When you think in alignment with truth and feel in harmony with love, the energy within you rises through the spine like electricity through a circuit, connecting the lower frequencies of survival to the higher frequencies of creation. You become a living bridge between matter and spirit. This alignment is not achieved through willpower, but through regulation. Breathing slowly, resting in gratitude, moving with awareness. These actions recalibrate your signal. The antenna clears, the noise fades, the field begins to answer with precision. Signs,
Coincidences and opportunities appear not as reward, but as resonance. Every word you speak vibrates the air. Every emotion modulates your field. Every act of attention sends ripples through the quantum sea, shaping probability into form. You are surrounded by an orchestra of frequencies, and your biology is one of its instruments. The only question is whether you play consciously or by default. To live as an antenna is to remember that prayer, intuition, and manifestation are functions of physics. The sacred is embedded in circuitry. When you align thought, feeling, and body, you tune into the station of the infinite. And in that frequency, separation dissolves. You no longer transmit requests, you transmit truth.